every founder that I spoke to had the same problem, which is they said they wanted to scale the company, but what they were really saying is that they wanted to grow revenue.
Going through one stage to another, you don't know how to be there, like, be more conscious, be more aware.
Right? So you have to make sure that the identity matches the challenge that you're trying to solve for.
We don't know who we are. Because if I ask, like, who are you? And everybody, well, I'm the father, I'm the husband, I'm the business owner, I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, I'm the manager, I'm the clerk. Like, this is not who you are. That's the titles.
What do humans need? They need like food and shelter. They need protection, social acceptance. There's all these levels, and at the top of that pyramid is meaning.
We want a peace. We want freedom. We want to be loved. We want to connect with others. But the problem is we don't connect with ourselves.
Our humanity is also divine, and that our mind is very biological and very matter of fact, and it's not who you are. Because the proof is that we can actually observe the mind and we can make choices.
Welcome to the Inner World versus Outer World podcast. Today we have Cruz Gamboa, and I got your last name right.
Yes.
It took me like a few tries. And today we're gonna talk about the inner world and the outer world. That's what I love about. Cruz accomplished a lot of stuff, a lot of successes in the corporate world, and now we spread the words about the inner world.
The inner world, yes.
And that's what we're gonna talk about. Just getting to the top and like what next. And doesn't matter, like we're like, and I always love to talk to guys that accomplish, and there's like, this is not it. There's something missing. That's why I wrote the book, The Not Enoughness, because there was always something. Go ahead, just tell us your story. Like, how did you started? What are you doing right now? And
awesome. So yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me here on the show. I was really looking forward to having this conversation. And for me, I actually, when I was looking at your own story, I saw myself reflected a little bit, because I know what you mean, the not enoughness. Yeah. I've been there. And for me, the way that it showed up is when it was like around 2012, 2013, I was making that transition from being sort of a leader into an executive, okay? So that's what I really wanted. I was working at General Electric, okay, at the time. And I was told that I needed to do something remarkable for me to be able to make that pivot. And there was an opportunity to close a big transaction. It was an $800 million deal that I kind of like identified, and I ended up like leading in a way. And it was a huge opportunity. It required for the company to take a lot of risk and all of that. But so I believe that sort of like checked the marks for being a remarkable transaction. And I did. I closed it. It was a lot of work, and it took a really big personal toll on me, because for the time that I was working that transaction, I spent like almost 6 months, between 4 to 6 months. I don't recall exactly right now, but I can tell you that during the time that I was working it, I was working almost like 24/7. I would sleep like 7-8 hours, go back to work Saturdays, Sundays. It was like there was a lot of pressure to close the transaction, because we could lose it. It could be like given to the competition. So we had that, so that pressure to close.
What happened? Can you recall like what happened when everything signed, the deal closed? What happened?
I remember. Yeah, I remember that day, because we went in front of the Secretary of Energy for Argentina. It was a big deal, and the press was there, and I was pretty pumped. And then the papers were signed, the documents were signed, and then I just got out of the room, and I was just like, "Is that it?"
Right there.
Like I did.
I'm getting good, because that's what's like, we think that's, hey, I made it, and actually making to the top is like, what next? That's it? And that's what I worry about. It's like it's like when you're in school, it's like, if I pass this exam, I'm gonna party, I'm gonna do this. Suddenly you pass the exam, it's like, okay, the life goes on.
The life goes on, right? Now it's just like, I remember like 5-10 minutes later, the CEO for like all of Latin America for GE, he called me to congratulate me and like to thank me and all of that. And like, there was a couple of things that happened.
Of course.
Nobody knew, but like there was like some pressure like within the ranks. People wanted to, at the last fucking minute, they wanted to stall the deal. And I was just like, we will not stall the deal because of that. We will deal with that later. Okay. Mm-hmm. So anyhow, so he thanked me for just taking leadership and etc. And I remember that when I went home, because that day I was just like, I'm good. I'm gonna go home, and I just kind of like I sat on my bed, and I was just like, what did just happen? Like I've gone through this 5-month, 6-month journey doing this, and I just felt kind of depressed. That same day,
Yep.
I felt so empty.
Everybody does that.
Yeah.
You know, I tell people when they finish Ironman, it's like, when you're gonna get finished Ironman, you're gonna hit a depression. Like, what are you talking about? I finished Ironman. I'm like, you trained it for so long for it. You think it's you cannot achieve it. Suddenly you achieve it. You're like, that's it. What next?
Yeah. And then I think, what ended up happening is like, as soon as I sort of relaxed a little bit, so the adrenaline, just sort of like the adrenaline level came down a little bit, that's when I really started feeling what I had been suppressing for all this time, which is I started feeling like really nauseous all the time. Like, like if we were having a conversation, I could not focus. And I was just like, what the hell is wrong with me? This is how it started. And I told my mom, it's like, hey mom, I'm like feeling like this. And like, well, maybe you should go to a neurologist. And like, and I went to like 2 or 3 doctors, and then they're like, yeah, your lab work is fine. Yeah, you do maybe a little bit overweight, do some workout, etc., and you'll be fine. And then the last doctor, because I kept insisting, like there's something wrong. Yep. There's something wrong with me, right? And the last doctor said, like, I think you're burnt out. And I was like, burnt out? Like, it didn't like really face me that I could, like, what burnout was. And I was like, well, but executives can burn out. I mean, can you imagine like how resilient would I be if I burnt out? And then I was just like, well, maybe he's right. So I'm going to think about that. And it took me a couple of months, and then I was just like, yeah, maybe I am burnt out. Okay. And I started like, sort of like Googling, like, what are ways that you can prevent burnout and all of that. I took a vacation, and I still felt like shit, to be honest. It took a while for me to get the medicine that I needed, and that mostly came in the form of, after I read the autobiography of a yogi, I just kind of understood that my problem was not a business problem. It was not an executive career problem. It was a spiritual problem, okay, that I needed to solve. I felt very misaligned, okay? And I mean, I can go in a rabbit hole on how I got to Paramahansa Yogananda. It's super interesting, but I'll just suffice it to say that was the kickstart of a process that took many years for me to just go in and do the work and start doing things that would satisfy my soul, that would feel more aligned. And for a while, I was working, but I took a little bit of a pause of trying to be the overachiever, because I wanted to focus on myself a little bit. And then eventually I realized that maybe my path was not necessarily being in a corporation. And that was a scary thought, because I mean, unlike you, I had been in a corporation my whole
corporate world.
Yes, that's all I knew.
That's the only thing you knew. That's the only thing you knew. Yeah.
And I know, like, my dad he was an entrepreneur. He was always an entrepreneur. So I knew that was possible for me, but I have never experienced it myself. And so I started thinking about it. I started I bought a couple of properties. I started doing like small stuff, and fast forward years later, I ended up moving to Massachusetts with now my ex-wife. And at some point I was just like, because at the time, like the company was like splitting into different groups, and it was just so disorganized, and so it was just not a good environment. I mean, and that happens when there's like a transition. Any institution, any system collapses, right? And it gets into a crisis. And I just felt like it was just too much. I was just like, what am I doing here? There's got to be something better. And I ended up leaving for a startup, which was not a great idea. And then when I left the startup, I was just like, well, what do I really want to do? So I sat down with that question for a while, and then I realized that I wanted to just try my own luck, like be my own man and like do my own business. And at first I didn't really know what that business was going to be about. So I mean, I was reading, different books, etc. And like one thing that became really clear is that I should not try to do things that I didn't know anything about, that I should focus on my strengths. And I started taking an inventory of all the things that I knew how to do. And it's like, well, I mean, I've been a corporate finance executive for a very long time. I'm good at finance. I'm good at sales. I'm good at growth. Because I'm not like, even though I've been in the finance world, I've never been purely a finance person. I've been mostly somebody who was always using finance to help the company and to help my clients grow their businesses. Like organically, this is how it happened. I didn't plan it. It wasn't a career choice. It just kind of like happened like that. So I said, well, maybe that's what I should do. I should start like being CFO and helping companies grow their businesses. And then ended up getting trained in a scaling methodology, scaling up. So I became a coach, and I was coaching people on scaling, and I was doing fractional CFO. And I was like, wait a second. Every person that I spoke to, because I was working with smaller clients at the time, every founder that I spoke to had the same problem, which is they said they wanted to scale the company, but what they were really saying is that they wanted to grow revenues. But when I looked at their companies, I was like, you're not ready, brother. You don't understand your unit economics. If you put more revenue into this company, you're just going to suck more cash, and you don't have a good credit line. You don't have equity. Like, how are you going to finance that growth? And like some of my clients, they were like, oh yeah, you're right. Once I show them the numbers, and so I realized that there is this thing out there where people are taught to just go after sales, marketing, growth, etc., without really focusing on the fundamentals of the business. Is my business profitable? Am I cash flowing? Do I have control
But don't
of
we
the
do this
operating
in a
parts?
business while we do it in our own world?
Yeah.
Because
Correct.
the inner world, it
Absolutely.
creates the outer world. So what happens is what they do in the business is all the mess and all the chaos they have within.
It's the same operating system. Yeah.
So
yeah.
what happens is when you open the hood and you look at it, it's like, oh, it's really not in business. I do the same thing in my own life.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
I know exactly
We're
what you
looking
mean.
for the shortcuts. We're looking this, but it's like it's really when you said like when you like had the first wake up call, the breakdown. It's like, holy shit, it's me.
Yeah.
Let's do the work. But tell the entrepreneur or tell anybody, it's like, dude, it's like, hey, it's you. You know what I mean? You cannot even make the executive decision because you cannot make the executive decision on yourself.
Yes.
So
1,000%. I mean, you said it very, very cleanly. And I would say that is one of the things, like when I'm trying to decide whether I want to support a founder, that is one of the things that I'm looking for: self-awareness, humility, and just basically being clear that the business, what's happening is in the business is a reflection of their inner world.
yeah.
And if we're not in agreement with that, right? And they think that maybe they have a funnel problem or they have a profitability problem, and they are like, oh, I don't want to talk about myself. That's too woo, for me to woo. And I'm like, well, working on yourself.
It is the voodoo shit. It is the voodoo shit. Listen, I'm struggling. I'm depressed. I have anxieties. Like, I'm not happy. I'm miserable. It's like, it doesn't matter. Even if I go to the business, I make a quick decisions. And then, when I'm with myself, with my own thoughts, I'm still like in the rabbit hole.
Yes.
And that's what I have to have, like my wake-up call. That's where my wake-up call came in. So
absolutely. So that's what I look for. And so I've come to the realization that I have to become like, because I'm running kind of like two practices right now. I'm running the clients that I serve, and then I'm basically hiring new CFOs and, basically placing them with, companies that are sort of like earlier in their journey. Because I want to focus on the guys who are ready to do this jump. Because I know if they are ready, then we'll find a way to grow your company once you're ready, right? So, but if you're not ready and you haven't done that work, then we may be trying to accelerate something that is just not ready. It's like the cake is not ready to be eaten. You know what I mean, so to speak, right? So you have to make sure that the identity matches the challenge that you're trying to solve for. So that's one of the things that I look for.
how does it help you with because now how experience from your own journey, like the breakthrough, the break, and all this stuff. Like you told me, like, almost commit suicide as well. So let's talk about that journey, how to get it to what you're doing right now. Where was the break point, when the self-results awareness, how that happened?
So when I look back and I consider sort of like all of the major events in my life, the ones that have created the biggest breakthroughs are the ones where I was like in the shitter the most. The lowest points became the pivotal moments for my growth. Okay,
that's the only thing you can take out of this podcast. You got it right here.
Yeah,
seriously, we learn only on the bottom when it's like everything is stripped away. It's funny. I always tell the same thing. I did not learn shit from the successes. It's truly from the failure. Mm-hmm. Truly, when I was on the bottom of the bottom, and I thought it's the bottom of the bottom, and then a year later, shit, I wish this was like, this is not even close. Mm-hmm. But that's what all the breakthrough, and it's just like, it's the awareness, the wake-up call.
Yes.
And we have like a lot of, how many wake-up calls did you have in life?
I've had a few, but I had maybe one or two that were like really, really difficult. Okay. Mm-hmm. And because they intersected with, if you think of a Venn diagram, like family, health, right? The spirit, like family is important to me, right? Mm-hmm. And when I got divorced, that was really rough. Me personally, maybe for other people, they feel liberated, but I didn't want to be divorced. I mean, I invested in getting married to somebody because I felt like
because Cruz, what happened is that's your identity.
Yes, that was my identity.
I'm married, yes. I'm a husband, I'm a father. I'm like, that's your identity. And suddenly your identity is stripped away.
Yes.
And we have identity crisis right now, so many of them right now in 2026, 2025, in this century, and we don't talk about it. We don't know who we are. Because if I ask, like, who are you? And everybody, well, I'm the father, I'm the husband, I'm the business owner, I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, I'm the, manager, I'm the clerk. This is not who you are. That's the titles. So we have all the title, but we never think, we never sit down. It's like, who am I? Or who are you? And then suddenly when that stuff is stripped away, it's like, wait a minute, I'm not the husband now. My family got, it's like, yeah. And that's, when I went through divorce, that was the biggest thing for me. Like the identity crisis, like.
Yeah. Who am I now?
Yeah, exactly.
Who am I now that I'm not
a
husband, that I'm not married to a woman who is the mother of my children.
Yeah.
But I think for me, like the double whammy is that eventually because I ended up like after I separated, I ended up like dating other women, and that was pretty cool. And at some point, I felt like we had some unresolved things with my ex-partner, and we, I think it was COVID that kind of like brought us together again, because we were not talking much, but it was during COVID we ended up kind of like partnering to help our kids. And that sort of like opened a little bit of a window for us to get back together, and we did. And it was, I think it was a bad idea now in hindsight, right? For both of us. Because eventually, like the same issues that were there to begin with ended up like manifesting themselves in the second round. Okay.
Because you guys, if the issues, the inside that is not addressed,
yes,
it's gonna come up. It's you can put on the carpet for so long.
Yeah.
And this is the compound pain, compound issue, compound wounds. They just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And the loved ones, they usually expose them.
Yeah, and I think the second time it hit me harder, and it hit me harder because I had a lot of shame. It was not only about the identity, it was about the shame that I felt that
guilt
I knew
and
better.
Shame, the lower energy.
Yeah, it's a low energy, but the felt that I shamed that something happened the first time, and then I chose to go back to the poison well, so to speak, right? And I'm not saying that my ex is a bad person. It's just that we were just not aligned, okay? And then ultimately now I get it. It was not like she was good and I was bad, or I was bad and she was good. It was not about that. It was about alignment. And like,
how do you find alignment with yourself right now? Because the reason we don't align with other people because we don't align with ourselves. You know what I mean? We need alignment. Like for me, finding the alignment, that's what I do the podcast. That's what I do, all the stuff that I do, the inner work. Because I want to find alignment. I want to go with the flow, but not closing an $800 million deal. You know what I mean? That's because
there's no alignment there.
There is no alignment there. It's like, you know, dopamine, adrenaline, like all this stuff going, and then boom, and there's like, well, no. Now I got to close $2 billion deal. Chasing entire life doesn't get us anywhere. You know what I mean? And then so tell me where when the alignments start coming and the wake up calls and everything else. Like
when I chose life. I chose life. You know, I chose life at some point. I just said, like, I want to be alive. I am blessed to be alive. And I started, like, taking my life a little bit more seriously in the sense that I have an opportunity to do big things, to become the person that I want to become. And I allow myself to put my dreams and my goals and my desires front and center, because that's a way of honoring myself and basically surrendering the path, the outcome, and the results to my higher power. I think that's where when I became more relaxed, I just kind of like, all right. So I don't have to be perfect,
because like people always ask me, what is the inner work? How did you get there?
The inner work is surrendering. Is surrendering the fear, surrendering the expectation that you have to accomplish things, and just trusting that when you are coming from an energy of like love and service, shit will happen for you, for sure. You know, you just have to trust it. You know, you feel that?
Amen.
Yes.
Amen.
Yeah, you just have to trust it. It's just it's hard to explain, because it's almost like, can you tell someone who's never been in water, just jump in the water, you're gonna be fine? They're like, oh no, but what if I drown? Like, yeah, you're not. You know, it'll be fine. It's a big leap of faith to trust that you're going to be okay. It's big. It's a big ask. But that's where the courage comes in. That's the threshold. I don't know if you know the scale of consciousness by David Hawkins. You know, what is the sort of like the point where things change? It's courage. It's the courage of being who you are, of just being content with what is, and then aspiring to be better, because, I mean, why not, right? We have the opportunity to be like a badass human. Why wouldn't we? I mean, we have role models. Jesus was a role model. Maybe Buddha. I mean, for other people, it'll be others. Mm-hmm. We have plenty of people who have taught us that humans can be really powerful. So why not dream big, right? I mean, even Jesus said it, right? He said, like, you will do bigger miracles than I. I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that's kind of what he said.
Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't say like only I. He said you could do it too. So I'm listening to the guys who I admire.
So anybody who's listening right now, because it's like a surrender. It's because believe me, it took me 2 years to surrender. You know, I built my empire just so I can control, so I don't get hurt, and you know what I mean. And I noticed it's the control. It was with me. It was all the wounds and everything I carry within me. The second I let it go, it took me years. I still work on it. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's walk me through the process. Like, how, in your words, how would you explain the surrender process? Like how do you? It's just trust God, trust whatever higher power, whatever you believe. Like, I'm not gonna have anybody to, you know what I mean, sell on spirituality. But whatever you believe, like, walk me through the process, like how.
I have a good way to explain that, actually.
Go ahead.
Yeah, because I
would love to hear it.
I've been blessed with having really good mentors, okay? One of them being David Bayer. He was my coach for a while. And I love David because, I mean, nothing that he says is new to me, but, like, the way he says it and the way he packages, it's really powerful. Like, he has this thing that, which I also believe, is that there's only two states of being. There's like the powerful state, and there is sort of like fear, so to speak, right? And you cannot be in both at the same time. Mm-hmm. You either in one state, it's like positive or negative. You cannot be like neutral. There's no neutral in this. Okay. There's like tendencies. You can spend more time on the positive than on the negative, or more time on the negative than on the positive. And at the end, it's a matter of choice. You know, the choice of like, who do you hang out with, the people that you surround yourself with, the choice of the kinds of thoughts that you entertain.
But it's hard to find the right people to hang around with if you vibrating on the lower frequencies. Because like, let's say if you're going through one stage to another, you don't know how to be there, like, be more conscious, be more aware, because it's like you still struggling with your own identity. So you have to bury our identity. So it's like, that's why, like, whoever's listening, that's why I always tell, hire coaches, go to the seminars, invest in yourself so you can grow and just have a bigger and higher awareness and consciousness, so you can connect with better quality people or people in the same direction you want to go there. Because I always say, alcoholic always gonna find alcoholic.
Yes.
Okay. Like when I started doing Ironmans, I always suddenly everybody I surround myself was either swimmer, was either runner, was either biker, or it was a dietitian because it was important to me. It was a physical therapist. It was a triathlete. Like this was suddenly by default becomes my bubble. But in the beginning, it was like I didn't have anybody in my bubble that I could ask.
Yeah.
2 years later, I could coach everybody. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but two things, right? We got plenty of freaking sensors, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When something doesn't feel good, if your life right now doesn't feel good, that's your cue. There's something there. It's not like there's something wrong with you. You're not broken, none of that. That's your cue. That's your message, your inner sensor that is telling you, you got to do something about it, right? And then what it takes is really just a decision, because this is how powerful we are as humans. We are, we have free will. We have the ability to manifest and create, right? And the minute you put out there that you want help with your problem, somehow the solution will show up.
You got to put it in the universe.
You got to put it like,
you
I need
have
help.
to put it there. Yeah.
I fucking need help.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
It's like, I can't do this alone, and then boom, hey, here, this coach, hey, here, this guru, or hey, this book, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
suddenly,
all of a sudden,
suddenly the reel shows up, suddenly the podcast
Yes.
showed up, suddenly it's like all the help is coming. But what happened is you got to be aware that you're looking for it. You know what I mean? You got to put it out there, because if I always say, I was lost for years, like 20 years, and then I always sedated with work, sedated with workouts.
Yeah.
I always chasing something that I could never achieve. You know what I mean? But what happened is I was getting more and more, but here's a boom, let's say $800 million deal. I made it. They give me enough dopamine and enough self-satisfaction for, a few weeks. And it's like, shit. And now depression, because now what is next? What is next? What is next? We all should have goals. Cruz, don't take me wrong. I think we all should have goals. But if we don't find the purpose, and the purpose is bigger than you, it's not about you anymore, then what happened is you're gonna run empty. My bucket came empty. You know what I mean? Because I have on the outside world, like, this guy cannot complain. You know what I mean? Because on every level, I achieved let's say the 1%. Spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially, relationship. But I'm miserable.
Yeah.
My bucket was empty. And now surrender, all of this. It's, I was like, it is funny. I was in Stanford like 6 months ago. I was and I went to a church. And it was like 20 minutes. It was the whole mass, but the 20 minutes when the priest was talking, and I love what he said. It's easy for the homeless guy to surrender to God because he's got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
But it's hard for somebody who's got millions. It's harder somebody who got houses, got everything. It's like, yeah, go follow me and surrender. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yep. I understand. It's like it's because suddenly, like, can I give my business away? And they're not even giving away, even though I walked away from my business like 20 years ago. But start controlling that. Just do the work. But there's some parts, you have some people that you have to trust. Because I've done this. I've done nothing alone. Nothing. I surround myself always with amazing people. But at some point, I have to let it go because it's like my father always tells me, like, how do you sleep at night? Yeah. I'm like, normally.
Yeah.
It's like, how? You know what I mean? So so walk me through your surrender. Like when you decide, it's like, hey, okay, God, take me away. Like how? Because I always wondered what was the breaking point for so many, everybody I talk to, because I know exactly my point. What was your point? Like you said, like, I don't have it. And I love what you just said. If there is something that you're unhappy, there is a cue. Yeah. There is a sensor. There is an inner sensor telling you, hey, you have to change. It's not this. You know what I mean? Yeah. But why we have to, like, especially men, right now is June mental men awareness month. Why we men? Because women connect spiritually a lot quicker. You know what I mean? We men, we have to, something bad has to happen. It's either like divorce, getting fired, getting bankrupt, losing something, you know what I mean? Something really, really bad. You know what I mean? Why? Like, why? And I love the signals. Like, hey, you're getting the signals. I wasn't getting the signals until God put me in bed for 44 days. And I couldn't get out of the bed. And he was sending me signals for 20 years. I just do another deal. I just win another medal. I just get another title. You know what I mean? To just prove the whole world I'm enough. What was your signal? What was your like? It's like...
Well, I mean, my signal initially was just feeling empty. Okay? I think we actually have a problem, a massive problem. At least I'm going to say in the United States, because that's what I know.
740,000 suicides every year.
Yes.
95% men. Every 40 seconds, there is a man committing suicide.
I mean,
I'm not ignoring women, just so you know, because I know a lot of women listen to my podcast. So yes. I'm not ignoring women.
But, the one statistic that is also super interesting is that 2/3 of the American workforce, it's in a state called quiet quitting. I don't know if you've read those statistics. What is quiet quitting? It's like you're showing up for work, but you're not really like there. You're thinking about something else, right? So you're kind of like quiet quitting. Mm-hmm. And I thought this was really interesting, and I started like reading into it and like the reasons and all of that. And part of the problem is that, I'm going to tell you my interpretation after I read this statistic. My interpretation is that it goes back to the Maslow pyramid of needs. Okay? Mm-hmm. You remember that? Like, it starts with like, what do humans need? They need like food and shelter. They need protection, social acceptance. There's all these levels. And at the top of that pyramid is meaning. Okay? And if you think about it, in the United States, it takes between probably $60,000 to $80,000 to have enough to eat and a place to live. Okay, so for most people, the lower bottom areas of the pyramid, the lower levels, are pretty much taken care of. Okay, so what's left is the upper part of the pyramid, where it's all about meaning, but most people are spending 8 to 10 hours either like commuting or at work, working for somebody else, with jobs that they hate, with bosses that are not good people, some of them, because they all have their own father and mother wounds and God knows what. And what's happening is that most people are not finding meaning in their work. And corporations, they just kind of like ignore this because they're like, meaning is something you find at home. You know what I mean? But there's also plenty of data that supports that companies that have a higher purpose and provide meaning for their employees and for their clients, they actually perform better. Okay, look at Patagonia, for example. It's this simplest example, but there are many unknown stories like Patagonia of companies that have been founded by people who actually believe in something much higher than themselves. Because when you provide a space as a business owner, when you provide a space for people to find meaning and purpose in what they do, and you approach it from that perspective, productivity goes up.
I find a meaning, I find a purpose, when I almost took my own life. How do people find meaning and purpose?
Man, that's a complicated question, because I think it goes back to courage. Do you have the courage to like really listen to what is it that you want? To allow yourself to like put it in on a piece of paper? Oh, perfect example. I work with a lot of founders, and my part of my process, part of my onboarding process, is that I ask them like, hey, like if I had a magic wand, what would your company look like 10 years from now? What would you have accomplished? It's like, yeah, we would have had $10 million in revenue and 100 employees, whatever it is, right? And I'm like, no, not that. Like, what legacy, like what accomplishments as a corporation, like what impact would you have made in the world? And they're like, oh, I don't know. It's like, well, just take a shot. And they're like, I don't know. I can't imagine it,
But sometimes you're just planting the seed, just
exactly
asking a simple question.
A simple question.
Because then they go to bed, it's like,
holy shit, like, yeah, like,
holy
what is
shit,
it that I'm
what,
doing?
Yeah, what do I do? Where do I want to go? What do I want to accomplish? You know what I mean? It's like, at the end of the day, I got to, Cruz, tell you, we want a peace, we want a love, we want abundance. But, we want abundance. Everybody think of abundance is financial. And it's not.
It's not, yeah.
It's not. It's abundance. It's, the gratefulness, the appreciations, the spirituality. It's abundance in love, abundance in relationship, abundance in connection, abundance in peace, in freedom. That's what the abundance is. It's being able to having roof over the over, like, you don't have to be in freaking $20 million mansion. Do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean, yeah.
Abundance, that's all abundance. And we just like, when you tell people abundance, it's believe me, you can have all of this stuff, whatever financial, but be in the jail. You know what I mean? So it's that's what it is. Nothing else. We want a peace. We want freedom. We want to be loved. We want to connect with others. But the problem is we don't connect with ourselves. And correct. I love what you said in the middle of the podcast, that's your cue to wake up.
Absolutely. And by the way, I know plenty of founders that when they created their company, they did it because they believed in it. It was not, for some, it was just a transaction, okay? And then eventually they end up like, they get tired of the business because there's no alignment. They're like, oh, I just want out of this. You know what I mean? Because there's no alignment. But for some, they actually started for a good reason. They wanted to, they want to be the innovators, bring some technology or solve a problem for a group of people, right? They really believe that the stuff that they have to provide has a value for others. Not for everybody, but most entrepreneurs that I know, there's something about their story that basically aligns with that concept. And yet, what ends up happening is that when you are in the trenches and you are, sleeping or trying to sleep in your bed and it's 3 a.m. and you're worrying about how you're going to make payroll this week, you are in such level of primal fear and scarcity that how can you allow yourself to dream big, to connect with your mission? You know what I mean? It's like you are in the shutter at that point. And like nothing good can come out of that. Let me put it that way, right? So
because you go in the stage of fear.
Absolutely.
And it's holding you back. It's like, at least with me, it was holding me back. You know what I mean? So I was proving this, but there was always fear of being loved, being broke, being, appreciated. But there was always a fear. So I have to prove it. But I never prove it to myself. You know what I mean? I want to prove to the whole world, but never to me. Yeah. And my little Jarek was like, yeah, screw you, man. We're not doing this.
Yeah. So
and my body was giving me a lot of cues, the sensors, but I was blind, man. I was blind. That's why we have so much depressions. That's why we have so much suicides. Because a lot of men or people, not even men and women, just like, I don't want to be here anymore. You know?
What a shame, right?
Yeah. But that's what you said, that you live in the energy of shame. Guilt and shame is the lowest energy. And it's hard to get out of it. That's the fear comes in and we get stuck and then we cannot get out.
Yeah, correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So sometimes, like I've come to the conclusion that it sometimes that's exactly what we need to go through. And I know it's probably hard for some people to hear that, but it's like, yeah, maybe that is the thing that you have to feel, that anguish, that pain of maybe fear of failure, not enoughness, right? Like, oh my God, like I should be further ahead in my life. I mean, I have $5-10 million of revenue and I'm not making any profits or, generating enough cash. And yet, I mean, in some magazine and coming to podcasts and looking all amazing and deep inside, I feel like an imposter, right? So, but all of those are, if you think about it, those are all stories that you're telling yourself.
I call them bullshit stories.
It's bullshit stories because
bullshit stories, yeah.
In the end, nothing is broken. All problems are fixable. Okay, and you don't have to do it alone. There's other people that you can tap, that you can coach with, that you can consult, that you can bring to solve the problem that you have. But you have to surrender and get out of your own mind and focus on just being more present, right? In my opinion, that's what makes a difference. Because when you're more present and you're more calm, you make better decisions. I mean, it's just that fucking simple. You make better decisions.
But Cruz, how you make the switch? Because I always say, like, do we have a switch? How do you make the switch? The second you make the switch is easy. But how do you make the switch, the mindset? Like, how do you, because it's like, when you're in the hole, when you're in rabbit hole, and I was there, it's hard to get out. You don't see it. You don't see the light on the end of the tunnel. Like, you don't see it. You are the light. You are the light. You create the tunnel. You create this hole. You know what I mean? It's like, how do you switch the breakthrough? Like, how do you?
I think just coming to like for you, right? Like, you had your moment where you thought you were gonna take your life, and I'm sorry to hear that, but that was a moment that you needed in order to be different. Because I can articulate it in 300 ways, like intellectually, and until you've gone through it and experienced it and like eaten a lot of crow, and you're like, I can't do this anymore. I give up, Or you had somebody who was really influential in your life, somebody that you look up to, and you see what they've done, and you're like, you get inspired, okay? If those two things are not happening in your life, you can play this podcast that we're doing right now to somebody who's not in that frequency, and they won't get it. I can explain it in 100 ways, and they still won't get it. They'll think
I didn't get it.
Yeah,
and I was
like,
surrounded.
what are they talking about?
I have amazing people, and I didn't get it.
They're like, what are they talking about? Like, yeah, like, you don't know my story. Like, I have to work really hard, and my daddy was this, and like nobody gave me anything, and I have to do it on my own, and like all the bullshit stories, right?
Yep.
That we tell ourselves about, like, we are where we are because of X, Y, and Z, and giving our power away to others, right? To our stories, to our life, to basically our parents, or to a partner, or to a business partner, right? Or to our school, or God knows, right? Or to somebody who bullied you when you were like 8. We all have our scapegoats. But in the end, if you come to the conclusion that everything that is happening to you, first of all, is happening for your benefit. And secondly, it's like you created it all. Then you have the ability to say, well, if I created this shit, then maybe I can create something better. And I think that's where you can allow yourself the freedom to be who you are meant to become.
I always tell people there's like 8 billion people in the world, and everybody's different.
Yeah.
Every single one is different, and we are the only one accountable, responsible for our own actions, for our own stuff. And I know that I create the shit for my own shit. I remember that. And the second I was blaming the
Victim,
people, the environment, the politics, the world, everybody else. The second I took complete full ownership of everything, and I stopped being my victim of the own circumstances that I created, the environment that I created, that's when the freedom started. That's when the peace started. You know what I mean?
I track with that, yeah.
Yeah, and nobody could, but believe me, nobody. Like I always tell people, you cannot quit drinking for your wife, for your kids, for everybody. If you don't, if your drinking bothers you, if you don't quit for you, it's not gonna last. Mm-hmm. The same thing with with relationship. The same thing with money, with love, with everything else. If you don't do it for you, you do it for somebody else. It's a transaction.
Correct.
But we have to learn, with ourselves. Cruz, at the end of the podcast, I always do one thing. Here's the camera. Mm-hmm. For somebody who's struggling right now with depression, with suicide, and is going through the hard time, divorce, breakup, or whatever, the hardship, what is the word of advice for them?
Well, the only thing that I can say is that we are giving the opportunity to come into this world and to experience being alive. You should be really grateful of that. If you're a person who believes in a higher power, you should be really honored to be given the opportunity to be here. And it is your responsibility to do the best you can with the situation that you have. There's plenty of people that are probably worse off than you. If you actually start looking around, you'll probably see it. And there's people that are much worse than you and are doing much better spiritually. So that's not an excuse. There's no excuse for giving up on life, okay? So it is our responsibility to become who we are meant to become and to be the best person that you can be. And you don't have to compare yourself with anybody. Just compare yourself to the standard that you hold to yourself. And that's the only thing that we can aspire to be. Yeah. The best person that we want to become.
Yeah. And that's what, like Cruz said before, your body is giving you cues. The sensor is telling you, hey, I don't want to live here anymore. I love Tim Carey. I always use him. The body is telling you, fuck off. I don't want to be here anymore. Yep. I don't want to live here anymore. And it's just like, stop, reset. And, and sometimes we're going through the difficult time just for the wake up.
Correct. So, yeah, and maybe the other thing that comes up for me is whatever stories that you think that are happening to you, just remember that your brain is just feeding you trash all the time. You don't have to believe it. It's your choice if you believe it or not, and you can choose better. You can choose to believe that our humanity is also divine, okay? And that our mind is very biological and very matter of fact, and it's not who you are. Because the proof is that we can actually observe the mind and we can make choices. Think about that. So there's somebody like one step removed that can actually look at what your brain is thinking and still decide against it.
Yep.
So that is the person that we have to connect with. That is the sort of the inner dialogue that we need to start nurturing with that person that is actually watching the brain think the thoughts. Because then we can have more control of our mind so that we can have better thoughts, have better friends, and make better choices.
But it starts with the inner dialogue. And I love what you said in the middle of the podcast, that you create the story. The reason, even, it doesn't matter. And I know because I created my own stories when I was on the bottom, that we create the story. We put ourselves in the gutter. And, and I blamed everybody, but not myself. So you can switch and get, and switch the inner dialogue to build something better. You know what to do. If you like the podcast, subscribe it, share it, send it to somebody. Cruz, when people can find you?
Probably the easiest is on LinkedIn.
Okay.
But if you want to check out my website, scalingcfo.io. Mm-hmm. And if you're interested in some of the work that I do and some of the ways that we can help you, I have this document that I generate for my clients and prospective clients. Mm-hmm. It's basically scalingcfo.io/blindspots. And this is a document with the 7 blind spots that most entrepreneurs, like 7-figure entrepreneurs, have in their business. And I think so. I mean, it's not necessarily spiritual, but it's very much grounded on observation of what other founders that I've worked with experience, and myself, because I'm also an entrepreneur and I have blind spots. I'm not perfect, Jarek. Can you believe it?
Love it. Love it. None of us are perfect. Cruz, thank you very much.
Thank you for listening. Leave your comments and subscribe for more insights on mastering the inner and outer wealth.